everyone, very excited to be bringing you a little project using the Catherine Paula Stamp of Approval collection. Well, some of the collection, there's loads in this kit. So this one, I'm going to be showing you a watercolour effect. I'm using the Wow Silver Embossing Powder and that gorgeous Love You stamp from just one of the stamp sets that you get in the kit. I'm using a really thick, I can't remember the GSM, so I do apologise, but a really thick watercolour card, or poundage as you'd say in America. And instead of using the inks, I'm going to use the refills. So obviously the refills are great for refilling the ink pads, but they're also fab for doing this technique with. Now, I am really annoyed with myself, and I suppose I could have shot the video again, but I like to prove I'm human, and I used far too much ink. I could have just got away with one little dot of each. I really didn't need to use this much, but you feel like, you know, you're not using a lot because they're just tiny little dots from the refill, and there's still loads in there, but a little bit goes a long way. Anyway, so I've done it directly onto my craft mat. I've spritzed it with some water, and as I say, because my watercolour card is really thick, I've added some water to the front of that as well. Now this one, I'm covering the whole thing. I'll show you a little card later where I left areas of the watercolour card showing through, which look nice as well. I'm cleaning this up. I'm going to do it off camera. It literally took one baby wipe, but you didn't need to see that mess. Anyway, so I'm just drying this because obviously it's very wet, and you'll notice I flip it over from time to time, and that just flattens the card back out again. So I'm going to put it in my mini Misty. Now this is where the Misty comes in so handy. When I saw these stamps, I was like, oh, what do I use? And this one just stood out to me straight away. I love the design of this. It's one of those stamps where you think, why didn't I think of that? It's so simple, but so effective. I love it. Okay, so I've just lined it up where I want it. Little tip as well, sometimes when working on watercolour card, give it a little dust over with some talcum powder, just in case you haven't heated it enough and got rid of that moisture, because you don't want the embossing powder sticking everywhere. So I'm going to stamp it down. You'll notice I put the card right in the corner of the Misty. That's because every time I go and put it back in again, I know exactly where to put it each time. And then I'm just going to sprinkle it with my Wow, and it's silver regular. It's not super fine, not ultra high, it's just a regular one. Shake off me excess, and I always heat from underneath wherever possible. You just get a much nicer, smoother effect. But the technique I'm showing you here is where we're going to emboss over the top of embossing, over the top of embossing. And the reason for that, you see that there, it's all pitted. That's because of the thickness of this watercolour card. It's not a smooth surface to work on. So I'm just building up my layers of embossing powder, and I've done 3 in this instance. And this is where that Misty just comes in so handy, because you get it in exactly the right position. And there you go. Look at that. That is just so beautiful. I love it. Absolutely love it. So now I'm just going to attach it to my card front. I'm just keeping this really simple. So I'm just going to put some double-sided tape. I'm going to go all the way around each edge rather than just sort of like in the centre or anything. Because of how heavy this card is, I want to make sure it's stuck edge to edge on there. And I'm just going to leave myself a little border, just a nice little white border. I just love that. Sorry if I love my card so much. It's not so much I love my card, I love that technique. I just think it looks great, and I love using the refills for watercolouring. I just think they're fabulous. Anyway, so moving on, I'm now using the Catherine Paula stencils, and these ones are called Aspen, and they're like, well, you'd class them as Christmas, I suppose, because they've got little snowflakes in there, but they've got lots of plain ones as well, which you can just use all year round. So I just love these. I do love a little sequin on there. Used to be ribbon mad, I'm now sequin mad. And my little tip would be, I always position them exactly where I want them first of all, and then I go in and just pick one up at a time, little bit of glue underneath directly on the card, not on the sequin, and then just stick it down. What you don't want to do is get glue on your fingers. If you get glue on your fingers, then you've got it stuck everywhere and it's a bit of a nightmare. But in this instance, I think I managed to stay quite clean, which is rare. Although don't look at the fingers on my right hand because they're just covered in ink. But that means I've had some messy fun, so that's cool. Okay, so that's that finished. It's really simple. I actually love that blob of blue. That's the Daydream colour. Actually, if you turn it on its side a bit, it looks a bit like a heart. It just, I don't know, it just goes nice with it. I like it. So this one I've done was more solid, so it's more solid colour all over. And then I'm just going to bring in another one that I did, but this time I didn't use anywhere near as much of the ink. And I left areas empty, let's say, so I didn't fill the whole card up, and I just think that gives a really nice look as well. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Go check us out on Instagram and get inspired. Bye.